Indoor range Q&A session. Here we go. Some of you guys have been waiting for a couple of weeks on this and glad to finally get it out. I'll break this up probably into a couple, at least two videos, because on some of these questions we'll go quickly because they're simple and straightforward, and others there's going to be a lot of ideas and sidebars and adjacencies that for context will be, I think, helpful and insightful. And this will give you a feel for kind of the flavor of the online range conference and what it's going to include in terms of my knowledge and information and what I can share and help guide you through the process if there's enough interest to through the 7 modules that I've mapped out, which will result in your completed budget, vision casting, kind of initial due diligence, market analysis with support for demographics. It includes the market saturation test for how many shooting ranges, lanes you should build, if your market will support them. If not, why not? What to do about it. And then, of course, the budget, which I'll share more details on soon. So let's jump into the Q&A. Justice says, learning about the industry. Great. This, I will tell you, I think is the best opportunity to learn. Your other options are to, and I recommend everybody do this, join the National Shooting Sports Foundation as a startup business if you're not already. The startup, last time I checked, was maybe $100 or $200. So joining the NSSF is a great resource. There's tons of pre-recorded videos from educational sessions on across the board for FFLs in general, but also for gun range operations and a little bit about establishing a range. The other option that just passed, 2 other options that just went by this summer, is the National Shooting Sports Foundation Range and Retail Expo that was held down in Florida. They have educational sessions there as well. And then the NRA does a range conference that was, I think, a month or so ago in Denver. And those are great, but I will tell you that I think they scratch the surface. I mean, it's a good way to kind of get some context, but get maybe sort through some initial ideas and questions. But in terms of definitively fleshing out the opportunity within your specific market, defining your market and understanding your demographic, analyzing it, and then being able to map out, budget out your business model and pro forma for your business part, for yourself, for your business partners, for your investor, for your banker, for underwriting. You're not going to get there with those other resources. They just, there's not enough time in a 30 or 45 minute or hour long session to get you through all of those issues customized to your specific needs. So learning about the industry, those are your options. Another is to engage me. I'm Stuart Mullen, Range Development Services. I've been building gun ranges across the country for years, half of which have gone on now to, we've established at least a second location. And these ranges, I mean, I'm working on everything from a gentleman outside of San Diego who wants a 2-lane range below his RV garage in his accessory building to, 40 plus thousand square foot. I've got on the boards a 55,000 square foot range in Texas. But then plenty that are in the 12, 15,000 square feet to 30 plus thousand square feet. So average range, I would say, in the U.S. is somewhere in the 12 to 20 lane range. Forgive me, I'm getting over a summer cold here. I'll pause the video so you don't have to hear me coughing. So learning about the industry, those are your options on how I think it's best to learn. Some will suggest, well, just call range owners and hop on a plane and go visit with them. Some will do that. Many will not. I think that that's helpful for context, but it also potentially biases you in ways that, there's certainly strong opinions out there. That's what you'll find is somewhat unique about me. I have my opinions, but my goal, my objective, my mindset is to fully inform you without a bias. Now, am I unbiased? No, I'm biased by my experiences. So if you say, well, who is the best equipment manufacturer out there? Define the best. Best at marketing, the best at design, the best at selling and supporting their products. There's, at least a half dozen elements to that relationship and to their products that I think need to be taken into account. So answers with me are not necessarily always simple because I want as much information in so that I can make the most informed decision going outward. So learning about the industry, that's great. This is, I think, through the online range conference is probably going to be the best option to learn quickly and in as organized a manner, a sequence as is available. And what I mean by that is knowing what the tasks are is really important. Knowing the proper sequence to the tasks to establishing a shooting range is absolutely invaluable. Why? Because you want to leverage, I think, your resources, your time, your money, your knowledge, and your relationships. So how best to do that? Well, the opportunity to take what I've learned over the years, sometimes painfully learned, and leverage that information, that knowledge, and those insights so that you don't repeat those same lessons. They take time and they take money. And the combination of time and money to the negative in a learning process doesn't help you. So I can help you avoid the learning curve. That I don't see anybody who's interested in my being involved with my services and insight is not really trying to get good at establishing ranges because I'm already good at it. They're trying to get to the point where they are a range owner operator. And I think that's why you see the success of the ranges that I've built over the years and the success rate of those owner operators going on to build and operate additional ranges to their empire, so to speak. All right. So learn about the industry. Great. Justice, thanks for the submission and the question. That was long-winded, but again, I tend to do that. So design, insurance, and cost are of concern for Wendy. Design is, let's put a footnote here and say design is fun. It's exciting. It's also a little bit of a slippery slope because back to kind of the sequence and task of issues, the budget process is dependent upon your market and your demographic, and so design should be too. If you start with design, I think you have the cart before the horse because you need to understand whether you're building a $4 million range or a $14 million range. And I have a lot of people who call with a certain expectation and they don't realize that, hey, I make 2 or 3 decisions and those are 6 and 7 figure differences with the decisions that you've made. So mapping out and understanding your market and who you're going to serve, how you're going to serve your customer base with your specific facility is really important. And doing that on paper at the front end is in a budget process is far more important to get that done first so that when you go into the design process with an architect, you are driven by the metrics and the numbers. You're not driven by a dream and a vision. Good to have dream and vision, but we've got to quickly tie that to the realities that you're going to be facing. So I feel real strongly about these issues in large part because it's been proven out over time and time again. And because I've had plenty of folks who called and said, I've got this property that I've got to get sorted out, or I have this design that I'm done with, I've completed. I went out and spent a pile of money with an architect and have a floor plan, but I don't have a site and I don't have a budget and I don't have equity or one of those key elements. And so now at that point, if it's out of order and out of sequence, you are forced to pursue building your range based on kind of a brick that's halfway up the wall, your design. Well, but I need a site that accommodates that design. Well, that can be very difficult. There's very much a chicken or egg from a design perspective. Is, do I select my site and then design to it, or do I design my footprint and then go find a site that fits? I have a very strong opinion about that, and it's design the vision and the budget, and then let that drive your site selection needs, and then make modifications and tweaks to your floor plan to accommodate. Otherwise, it's not in that general sequence. I'm not saying you're set in stone, but you've got to have the flexibility and the understanding of what works for your model and your market, your demographic, so that when those opportunities for real estate come up, you're not, it's not the tail wagging the dog. Hope that makes sense from a design perspective. All right, let's move on. Insurance, yes, it's not as bad as most people assume or think that it is. There's just some limitations. You're not going to go have a policy that has a $20 million payout. That's just not the way the gun range insurance game works. We factor it in on the front end for expenses that are prior to grand opening. We have operating expenses that are month 1, year 1, but then we have expenses within the budget documentation that are pre grand opening expenses that need to be factored into the budget, so that it's included in your loan documents and loan funds to prepay for insurance, at least a portion of it for the first year. And then cost, big bucket of information input, which is going to be highly customized within the confines of the online range conference to your vision and your building square footage, your shooting capability, your market from a real estate perspective. Because in one market, we might be able to buy a site for $250,000. And I've had gun range locations where we paid $1.8 million for the dirt before we built the building. So yes, those are great topics, and we will cover them thoroughly. If you have a more specific question about any of those issues, glad to kind of revisit if you want to chime in, Wendy, or anybody. Okay, I'm looking to listen to great FAQs. Bernie, I will be sending this video out in a link for you to consume this information. Best type of range for tactical training, indoor or outdoor? Meaning, is an indoor range better or an outdoor range better for tactical training, is how I read that question. Better. Here's where I start putting things in the bucket to consider. Better, what do you mean by better? At a high level, typically an outdoor range is going to be more easily capable of a more diverse training offering. So tactical training, moving and shooting, multiple targets, an outdoor range is going to accommodate that more readily, easier, for less money. An outdoor range, however, is at a disadvantage because it's outdoors. You're subject to inclement weather, heat, cold. You are subject typically to a longer drive to get there. So I would just say the convenience of an outdoor range has disadvantages. As an operator, that's important because you're not going to be in proximity to as many rooftops. Either daytime or nighttime population is going to be dramatically less if you are 30, 45 minutes, an hour drive outside of a metro area where the majority of your users are coming from. So there's not the ability for them to pop into the range at lunch or on their way home, or even on a Saturday before the kids' soccer game, because you're out in the boonies with an outdoor range. So now let's talk about the indoor range and tactical training. Indoor ranges lane range configuration with ceiling baffles and target retrieval system, they're not cheap. They're expensive. So the vast majority of the use is in the individual stall lanes, stall in between the stall walls, on the firing line, kind of in that static, what I call static position. And the tactical training is just limited because because as a range owner operator, you have that investment in all of the equipment. There's not quick and easy access to tactical training. A lot of times, let's say, for example, on a Saturday, that's when the vast majority of pay to play daily, hourly users are going to be coming in. Friday is busy as well. And so to shut down an entire bay of 5 or 8 or 10 lanes and let one person shoot tactically, well, what are you doing with all the other people who are queued up and want to shoot? So it doesn't make sense tactically. So it's why we see, for instance, indoor ranges often have their IDPA style shoot or their tactical training in off-peak days of the week and hours of the day. So tactically, let's just, you'll find I know what I need to know about all of the indoor range equipment options and vendors, manufacturers, and how they do what they do and so forth. We won't spend a ton of time within the online range conference, relatively speaking, spent on range equipment. We will talk about it, but I'm going to be talking about where you're going to spend, 90%, 95% of your time to get your range built is not on range equipment. But for this issue, taking a indoor bay room of lanes and converting it so that it is fully tactical, we're seeing change. What I mean by that is to have a fully tactical bay in a 25-yard shooting position, static position is going to have 9 ceiling baffles. So the protective baffles that hang from the ceiling are spaced out. There's a total of typically 9 rows from the firing line to the trap. Well, to go full tactical, meaning you have full ceiling coverage, I can step forward of the firing line and have a discharge into the ceiling and it be fully protected and covered and fully contained. Means you're gonna more than triple the amount of ceiling baffles, steel that's hanging. So you have the additional steel that you buy from the equipment manufacturer, and you have the additional structural load requirement because you went from 9 individual rows of baffles to now a continuous row of baffles. So there's the cost, I guess, is the bottom line. And in more than half of the ranges that we've built, we've actually, because we don't see a lot of tactical training just in front of the firing line, we've actually said, let's make the last 30 feet of a 25-yard bay tactical. Maybe not half. Maybe half of them. A few of them went full tactical, but a lot of them just opt for the last distance to the trap. We can talk more about that later. But those are some of the kind of considerations or factors that go into making an indoor range tactical versus outdoor. The indoor has its advantages because you're in proximity to the population. So let's answer it. Let's put a button in it this way and say, for an indoor range, typically we're going to have multiple bays. So a lane, we're building a range in Georgia now that's 5 and 7 lanes, 2 different bays, 2 different capabilities, 2 different kind of opportunities to market a little bit. And then also 2 different scenarios for the type of shooting and type of training that can go on in them. The other value in 2 bays is I can keep serving those customers who are coming in, the members and those who are paying just the hourly fee in one bay, and I can train tactically in another. So tactical training is an absolute must. Getting your customers past license to carry historically has been a challenge for the reasons I've mentioned here, but it also has to do with marketing and how your staff views the opportunities to train tactically is important, because your staff, your trainers, if they are tactically minded, have they taken that knowledge that they have, the higher level of training and knowledge and information, and linked it back through so that your customers and your customer experience brings them up to speed? Is maybe an oversimplification, but a lot of trainers, this is an area of improvement, I think, within the industry from a training perspective, have a certain vernacular and a speak. And for somebody who's getting into shooting or has been a shooter for a while and they're just shooting, they're just poking holes in paper and they want to get more advanced, the vernacular or the lexicon and the degree of invite that maps real clearly in the customer's mind how they can move through training knowledge and into a more tactical mindset and skill set. That link between intro and novice shooter to more advanced is where I see a big gap within the confines of kind of the training world. To be honest, it's just an intimidation factor. A lot of people are either not fully, a lot of trainers and consumer customers are not fully aware of. And so I put it on the trainers as their responsibility to reach into that less comfortable, less knowledgeable space and bring people up to speed so that they can help them become more advanced. Okay, bit of a tangent, but hope it gives you some context. All right, best type of range. We read that one. How to be profitable while differentiating ourselves from the competition. Ron, man, going hard. This is a good one. We would need to define profitable and define competition. So let's talk about this from the competition is obviously other ranges in the market. How old are they? What quality do they have in their physical improvements and physical conditioning of the range, stall walls, target retrievers? Are they new and modern, well lit, and do they have good sound abatement? Those are kind of the key high level issues that need to be addressed. If not, and they see you coming with all of those features, can they make some improvements and then kind of catch up? Oh, we're slacking off. We need to do better, to keep up with the new range. So how do you differentiate yourself becomes, I think, important. And what I hear consistently is niche down to blow up, meaning don't try to build a range and become the Walmart with the assumption that you're going to be this vortex of all firearms and shooting activity. There's enough firearms businesses, ranges, online FFLs, online gun purchasing, et cetera, going on out there that you are going to be far better off cultivating and curating and developing a brand that is known for something, not just, and I mean something specific within the confines of your capability as an indoor range and FFL dealer. So if it's training, if it's self and personal defense, if it's entertainment, there's a number of options along those lines, but it's really, I think, important to differentiate yourself in those ways. On the operations side, and I'm going high level here, there's plenty of strategy and ideation to work through on these issues, but it's a great topic to kind of get warmed up on. But from an operations perspective, profitability is, you're not going to find in guns unless you become a volume dealer, because guns within the world of retail have the lowest margin of a product out. I mean, there may be something else that's lower margin, but from ammo to cleaning kits to eye and ear protection, all have higher margin than guns. I see guns within the business model of establishing a gun range as an opportunity to sell the other stuff that brings your average across the entire store, across the entire business, bring that average up. your margin, your average margin up. You want to be north of 50%. Some are north of 60% gross margin. But guns are the thing that are pulling that down, and guns are the most expensive. If you look at on a per SKU basis, a firearm compared to a set of electronic ears or a t-shirt or a box of ammo, the gun is going to be $500, and all those other items are going to be generally less than 100. So your dollar invested in inventory is painful because it's a firearm that is expensive for you to buy from a distributor. And when you really want to be selling the services, which we've not talked about in this under this question, and that is the services provided to your customers are range time, membership, and training opportunities, selling events. I mean, have you looked into event, venues and event sales and the revenue? There's a huge opportunity there. So I have encouraged folks to pivot away from, in the right markets. Some markets need it, but in the average American market, dedicating a space, a room to VIP gun club, I've seen more get built that within a year or so, they enjoyed that initial sale to those kind of top tier members. And then within a year, they're looking at that space and thinking, well, I sold all those members who come and shoot, but they never really hang out. So I'm just going to level the playing field. And if you're a member, you get access to the members lounge. That's the right move, I think, in most markets. There are some exceptions, but I refer to it more as event space, because even as a non-member, if I want to rent it out for an end of year, sales event, celebration, or holiday season party for my company, or my, extended family's coming in town, we're having a reunion, the range is a great opportunity to do that, because not everybody wants or can play golf. Most everybody can shoot a gun, at least a lot more, greater percentage of the population. So, man, that's a great question, Ron. We could spend more time talking about it. Profitability and how to differentiate and the competition. I think we just kind of scratched the surface, but let's keep moving. Sales is another comment from Ron. Not exactly sure what to talk about there. We've kind of touched on it in some ways. Webinar, yes, I'll send you this link, Danny. Performa, investors, lenders, business development. Yeah, those are all great topics. And really, within my vision for the online range conference and the 7 modules that are mapped out and the subchapters within each will cover each of those issues pretty thoroughly, completely thoroughly. All of them. Now, I'm not a source for investors. I don't have a pool of people who are ready and able and willing to invest. I know people who have those folks. That's a different service altogether. There's a whole different set of fees and fee structure and so forth. But this online range conference and the budget discovery, the demographics, the planning that goes into it, and the pro forma are, in fact, certainly what's needed to have those conversations with your partners, your spouse, internally with yourself. Is this legit? Do I want to move forward with the idea of building a range? And then outwardly towards your investors, your lenders, bankers, the bankers' underwriters, the bankers' third-party feasibility study firm that's hired to do that work for the bank. Yes, this documentation that you walk away with at the end of the online range conference will not only equip you with the right information to present to them, but through the course of the modules, you will be armed with the knowledge and the information that empowers you so that you come away with the ability to inform rather than argue, to pass along knowledge and answers rather than have yourself in a position of having to defend. So selling your idea, from my perspective, really simply becomes, are you armed and equipped with enough knowledge through the online range conference to carry those conversations forward? Anybody that's going into investor conversations or lender conversations asking for money or asking for a loan, I think needs a mindset shift, a mental shift, big one. It's simple in its idea, but the mindset should be, this is an opportunity for those individuals, for those equity partners, and for the lenders. It's an opportunity for your architect to design the building for you. They're not doing you a favor. You're paying them a fee. You're paying the lenders a return, the equity investors a return. You're paying the bank interest rate. These are not favors that they are doing for you. It is an opportunity for them to make money. That's an oversimplification, and most people understand it. It's straightforward, but to live that out in kind of the undercurrent of like what's driving you in those conversations and how you present the information is, again, what I want to empower you in this process to come away with. All right, that was slow. That was 30 minutes. I'm going to cut it there and then provide another link with more great Q&A items, and we'll see you on the next video.